UK. The military is too small to fight, according to US generals. European and American generals have questioned whether the United Kingdom can still be considered a top-level fighting force. New analysis revealing the army will have fewer than 70,000 soldiers within 2 years. In fact, the figures compiled by the Times, this is in the Times this morning, show if the army continues to lose its troops at its present rate, the number of regular soldiers will fall to 67,741 by 2026. And in 10 years' time, we'll only have 52,000, and you can get them all into a football stadium. The question is the UK military too small? Joining us now is Major General Chip Chapman, who is a former army officer. Good morning to you, Chip.
Good morning, David.
So I'm deeply concerned about the reduction in troop numbers in this country. It seems defence is not Rishi Sunak's priority. We've seen people like Ben Wallace saying this is just simply not acceptable. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, there are always opportunity costs. If you want to give more money to defence, you give less money to education and building schools, which are, we all know have concrete cancer, and the National Health Service. And I think you need to understand, firstly, that we work within a NATO framework, and NATO has expanded with obviously the 31st nation of Finland joining, which gives additional capability, and Finland likely to join shortly. So it's within that framework that you need to look at, is the defence budget large enough for the threats we face? Now, the reality of our defence budget is that the figures which came out this week showed that we're the 6th largest defence budget in the world at $68.5 billion US. 7/8 are Germany and France. So just in European NATO terms, we have greater capability than our potential adversary, Russia. Now, then you have to look at what are our vital interests. We're an island nation. Integrated air and missile defence is more important than the army. The Navy is more important than the army, i.e. that is because of the need to secure the vital trade routes, as we see in the Red Sea, and indeed in the North Atlantic, because we are a nation which imports all our goods. No man is an island, and we're not. And those are the key things. It's not necessarily the army. So it's not the size of the army, it's the size of the capability. That's not to say there aren't capability gaps in the army. We took severe capability holidays when they were campaigning in Afghanistan. Those are called really the 4+1 capabilities, which there needs to be significant investment in. That's in what they call FIRES, long-range artillery, air defence, drones, electronic warfare, and logistics. That is, we need to make sure our stockpiles are bigger. But there isn't really an underinvestment narrative. We've had a severe lack of vision of what particularly the army needs to do, not what the Navy and Air Force need to do.
That's a brilliant point. Just in terms of the Navy, we know we're going to decommission 2 ships because we don't have the crew. We can't recruit anyone. Capita's been brought in to try and crew some of these vessels as well. HMS Diamond, which I've mentioned before, is the only Type 45 destroyer still on deployment. We simply don't have the personnel if we're going to continue in that traditional form of defence and warfare.
Yeah, and it's a great point with HMS Diamond, because you have a trade-off. At the moment, there are 6 Type 45 destroyers. HMS Diamond is in the Red Sea. If there was a threat, we don't have any ballistic missile defence of the UK. So Diamond, you have a choice ultimately if there were a threat today, which is, do you defend London from ballistic missile defence, or do you defend the Red Sea? And if you want to defend both, you need more than one Type 45 destroyer out there. What people don't understand is what are the key things which consume all the money in defence. And there are 4. It's pay, because it's a volunteer force. It's pensions. It's Cat-A equipment programmes, those over a certain hundreds of millions of pounds, and fuel costs. And we're already carrying something like £17 billion worth of risk in the equipment programme over the next 10 years. That's from the National Audit Office. So if you give a bigger defence budget, I'll guarantee it will be consumed by cost growth in equipment programmes. That doesn't necessarily buy you more personnel. It doesn't necessarily buy you more capability. It may enable you to stand still. But we are within a NATO framework. And NATO is stronger and with more purpose than it was in 2022 because of the actions of Russia. So it's not necessarily a decaying narrative in a European framework. European NATO already outspends Russia. If you add the behemoth of US, which spends $877 billion a year, you know, it's a no-brainer. But to say what is important this year is maintaining the transatlantic link with America, and elections are important this year for that reason.
Indeed. Always good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, Major General Chip Chapman there.